quick poll to the class. Who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes? Anybody know?
Solomon.
Solomon. She says Solomon. What does somebody else say? Who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes? See, their answer is that as far as a signature on it, there's no exact signature. There are a lot of internal evidences that point towards Solomon. But there are also a lot of people out there that in their study, and as they looked at this, that they said, no, this book doesn't really fit Solomon. It doesn't match the writing style of Proverbs. It doesn't exactly match that, but yet the internal evidence calls it king, calls it Jerusalem, son of David. There's a lot of things like that that would point towards Solomon being the author. But then there's other things that as the writer goes through that some people say, well, that sounds like two different writers. That sounds like a writer and some type of editor or something like that that's going on. The reality is when you look at this, I think most of the evidence to me in my brain, it helps me think about Solomon. But for the class, we're going to use what the word says, and what he calls himself is a preacher. And the book of Ecclesiastes, you're going to see that word Ecclesiastes, and as you look at it, there is a word within a word, and there's something that you're going to see because we talk about the church is an ecclesia, and is a congregation. And within this, you're going to have a message basically to a congregation, which makes sense that he calls himself a preacher. And so I find this very helpful for me as a preacher because, well, what does he talk about? Well, he talks about life. He talks about things that are practical. He talks about things that you and I need and that will help us day to day. I find the book of Ecclesiastes helpful in that way as a preacher, but just as a man, as a husband, as a father, because what he's going to talk about, and especially as we go into chapter 1 today, is things that I need, answers that I need, because I've asked these questions, and I think you've asked those questions. And the question is what is my purpose? What am I doing here? Where do I belong? Is this really what is meant for me to do? Is this the best there is? Is this the way it's always going to be? See, there's a lot of questions we come up with in life. A lot of them start with the question, simple question, but why? You ever ask that? You ever ask that about your life? You ever ask that about a situation? You're sitting there and you're like, why me? Why this? Why this time? Or you're sitting there looking, maybe you've hit some hard times and you're like, why am I having a struggle? Why am I doing this? The book of Ecclesiastes deals with these things. It deals with those questions like why? Why am I here? It deals with questions like what is my purpose? And it helps us to address those things in a very helpful way. Now, it's not going to give you the exact answer in marching orders for what you're going to do tomorrow. It's not going to tell you an exact prescription on how to get up, how to, get yourself dressed, how to work hard. It's going to mention those things, but it's not going to give you an exact prescription of, okay, do this, and do this, and you're going to be successful. And that's going to be a wonderful and an abundant life. But it is going to tell you how to have a bountiful life and a growing life and a fulfilled life when you have the proper perspective. And so the preacher is trying to get us to refocus our mind and our attention on what is truly important. When I stop and I ask the question, what is my purpose? Why am I here? There is something within that question that I need to address. You see, here I am, a mere man, and I'm trying to figure that out by myself. I'm asking a question out, I guess, to the universe or out to the space or just in my own mind, and I'm asking a question, what am I here for? What is my purpose? The problem is I'm talking to the wrong person. I'm addressing the wrong audience. When I just ask myself, what is my purpose? And I don't turn to the source I need to be asking, then I'm going to get a variety of answers. And the world gives us a variety of answers. What does the world say our purpose is? An individual purpose. What does the world say our purpose is?
Pursue happiness.
Pursuit of happiness. They made a movie about it. Okay, I think Will Smith's in the movie. They made a movie, Pursuit of Happiness. What is happiness? What is happiness? Happiness is whatever you want it to be. Happiness is, whatever you have decided. It's a decision. You get to decide, hey, I'm happy or I'm not happy. And what's that based off of? Well, it's based off of your opinion. It's based off your circumstances. It's based on your viewpoint. But what if my viewpoint's not accurate? What if my viewpoint is skewed? What if my viewpoint is worldly? Then I'm basing all of my happiness on worldly things. According to the world, my purpose is not only the pursuit of happiness, it's the pursuit of this material world. It's the pursuit of things. It's the pursuit of money. It's the pursuit of this wealth and fame. How do we know that? Because who do we look up to? Who are the famous people? Well, the famous people are rich people. Famous people are wealthy people. The famous people have what we call extreme talents, and therefore we have lifted them up. But tell me this, what's of more value? And I'll just pick on two categories. What's of more value? An Olympic swimmer or a contractor that builds hospitals? What's of more value? It's great. I love watching Olympic swimming. It's fantastic. I used to love watching Michael Phelps swim. He was amazing to watch, and there's so many others that are great like him in a variety of sports. But what matters? What truly matters? That was entertaining. But this is over here, and this is still a material world. So what we see is that even in our material world, there's levels. There's levels of importance. There's levels of things that truly matter. I mean, what matters? That a mother or father is rich and wealthy, or that a mother and father loves their children wholeheartedly? What's more important? Can someone living, we'll pick on, I think Hannah went to Honduras. I think it's in Honduras that they have a place called the dump. It's literally a dump, but it's also where people live. But several of them, if you look at them and the smile on their face and the joy in which they approach life, you would never know they were poor by their attitude. You would never know they didn't have the material things based on the smile on their face. Now, when we go there, we're like, oh, I don't have this. I don't have my Fiji water. I don't have my, my Yeti cup. I don't have my sports car. I don't have my $415,000 house. And the reason I bring that up is because that's the average price of a home in the United States of America. It's crazy, isn't it? $415,000. That's the average price of a home in the United States of America. Close. It's probably $420,000 now. But, it's in that ballpark. See, when we change our mindset and we start looking at these things and addressing our mindset, we start seeing that life is not always what the world tells us it is. And it's not always what we have lived it out to be. And we run into problems when our mindset's off. What are some problems that we run into when we have a worldly mindset? And I promise we're going to get to the text, but...
dissatisfaction.
Dissatisfaction.
You're still going to want more.
See, the pursuit of happiness is met with dissatisfaction. Why? Because what if we never get to that goal that we were reaching for? What if we find the goal unattainable? What if there are obstacles that are beyond my control? What if I am a straight A student that has applied themselves all through school, that has done every service project, that has taken internship after internship, that has the perfect resume on paper, and yet I applied to the Ivy League school that I have been dreaming to get into my entire life, and yet still, for some unknown reason to me, they reject my application. Is my life going to just fall apart? Because I did everything the world told me was perfect to do, and yet still it didn't work out. Have good people working hard ever fell on bad times? Yes, they have, all the time. You have, I have. And so people that have done everything right, and then a tornado comes through and knocks their house down. I mean, they got to rebuild. They have to get back up. They have to do those things, but sometimes they can't. Hannah's family was impacted, not her direct family, but just the town was impacted by storms. There are buildings that will never reopen. The city has come in, they've condemned a whole city block, and they said they will never rebuild. That means those businesses will never open back up again. They don't have the funds, the resources to start over, and those things are done. They did nothing wrong, but yet something bad happened. If their happiness was only in that job or career, they might fall on even harder times. It was bad enough that they lost money and property and possessions, but where's the real source of happiness? Where's the real source of the word that I prefer is joy? So you see why a worldly perspective can really drag us down the rabbit's hole, especially when things go bad. But it can even go when things go good. What if today, and I won't use the lottery because I don't believe in gambling, but what if today Publisher Clearinghouse walked in here and handed you $15 million? I think the last thing they did was $15 million. They came in here and handed you $15 million. Here you are. You're wealthy. You're set for life. If you put it even in the bank at the lowest interest rate possible, you're still going to do fine. The rest of your life. That's great. Hey, they handed you this. You won something. But what if you have a bad perspective? What if you have a bad viewpoint? What if you have, you buy and you buy and you buy because the world tells you, you got to have the big house and the big car and you got to go on fancy vacation. William, can you burn $15 million pretty quickly? Quick. Now, we would all love to have it, but Alan, in your business, in the industry, can you drop $1 million just on a few pieces of machinery and just easy? It's not hard. It's not hard to spend $15 million when you want to. You just do it, and it's gone. So even with something that seems amazing, hey, look at this, I won money, and it's free, and I get, nothing's free, by the way. But it seems wonderful. You have the wrong perspective, you have the wrong viewpoint on it, then your life can fall apart.
Even our perspective on that.
Yeah.
I have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, you do.
And you just want it.
You just want it.
And you might as well.
Might as well. You might as well cut that thing in half. That 15 becomes 7.5, okay, at least. Okay, so you might as well cut that thing in half, and because you're fixing to pay a whole lot of taxes. You've just changed tax brackets a dozen times or more. You've gone into the highest tax bracket, and there you are. Yeah, I say all of this to say that it is so important for the preacher to write to a congregation, to write to people to help them understand that our perspective of life matters. That our viewpoint of how we do things, it matters. Because when we have the wrong perspective, no matter if times are good or no matter if times are bad, when those things are off, then the things that happen day to day, they're going to be impacted. And they're going to be either much harder and much difficult because we make them harder or difficult, or they're going to be that much sweeter and that much more precious. See, I need this class. I need this preacher to preach to me, to tell me, Derek, sometimes your perspective of life is off. And it's materialistic, and it's worldly, and it's focused on the wrong things. And I would guess that you need that too. Because here, the writer, who is most likely Solomon, but even if it's not, this preacher here, as they are writing, as they are talking, they're going to address life. They're going to address the purpose. They're going to address, all of the sources of worldly and physical pleasure and the pursuit thereof. And they're going to help us to see what's truly important. Because by the time we get to the end of this class, we're going to have walked through every single thing that they have tested, that they have done, that they have pursued, that they have longed after and just gone for. And we're going to see, did those things bring them happiness? Or was it something else? Remember, like I said before, when we ask ourselves the question, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Let's don't ask those questions with us being the one to give the answer. With us being the one that's going to supply the source of that information. But let every single one of those questions be directed to the Father, to God. Because when we ask God, and when He is our source, then the answer to those questions become an awful lot more clear. And so it starts off, Ecclesiastes chapter 1. It says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people think it is Solomon, but doesn't necessarily have to be. Here, some options that you have can be a later king. Some believe that this king is, this person is post-exilic, so post-exile, which would give it a much closer date to Jesus. Some believe it is in the time period of Solomon. And so people in general have put it in a very large range between 800 BC and 200 BC. That's a pretty wide range. In order to get to Solomon, though, you would need to be closer into like the 900s, probably 900 BC, in order to really get to the reign of Solomon and when all of this is taking place in his life. Notice that when you look here at the text, though, as far as if you're going to do a criticism of the text, does this passage belong in Scripture? Does this book belong in Scripture? You can see it in the earliest writings. It is there. It is present. And you're going to see that its position is always right there beside Proverbs and Song of Solomon, which is why a lot of people also give evidence to it being prescribed to him. I want to read this. This is something that is revealed here in the Truth of the Day commentary. It's a usage. It's something that you might not find as helpful, but it might be something that you can take home with you to just understand. Because for us, the Bible in its entirety is helpful. And yet, as individuals, we might say, well, yeah, but the book of James is helpful when I'm dealing with life's problems, and so is 1st and 2nd Peter. The book of Romans helps me, especially the last half of it, helps me to know, how to be a faithful Christian. The book of Corinthians teaches me, about worship. It teaches me about love. It teaches me about spiritual gifts. It teaches me about, so we use certain books for certain things. Well, the book of Ecclesiastes had a special usage for the Jewish people. It says over time, it became a tradition of the Jews to read Ecclesiastes in the synagogues on the third day of the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Booths. This feast occurred in the late September or early October and commemorated the time when the Israelites are living in temporary dwellings after being brought out of the land of Egypt. Using the book in this way demonstrated the value of Jews placed upon its teaching. So you see that the Jews found this book very helpful during a specific feast and celebration that they did each and every year. And this was going to help just focus their minds. Focus their minds on what? Well, what's the book of Ecclesiastes about? It's about life. It's about purpose. It's about God. And when you think about that, that's a great book to read during that. In fact, I would say the book of Ecclesiastes is a great way to start your year. I would say it's a great way to end your year. There's a lot of times I would say the book of Ecclesiastes is a really good time to read. Now, as you go through the book, commentaries, this commentary specifically, have found 21 different themes and different things that they're going to talk about. Most of that, as you look at that, is going to deal with the material world, the pursuit thereof. It's going to deal with life. It's going to deal with death. It's going to show those things and what is important. And I think that as this preacher, that as he is speaking and as he is teaching and as he is trying to talk to us, that he is going to address certain things in various ways. He's going to have certain attitudes as he speaks that you're going to say, okay, well, now he's depressed. And he's going to have later attitude that says, okay, now he's, he's excited, or here he is, and some people say he's self-centered, or he's materialistic, he's this or he's that, he's frustrated, he's human. That's what he is. He's all those things. He is excited. He is frustrated. He is probably a little egotistical at times. He's all these things. Why? Because that's what humans are. That's what people are. We fall in a lot of those categories on a daily basis, and sometimes on every day. We fall in multiple categories like that. And so when I look at his purpose and why he is writing this, I see a lot of his attitude coming out. But I do see a wise preacher. I don't think a guy gets into this kind of writing, especially where he ends. I don't think he gets into this kind of writing accidentally. I don't think he just falls into it. I think he's experienced some things. I think he's gone through a lot of things. I think he has dealt with a lot of things, which is why I point towards Solomon. I think he's gone through a lot that has helped him formulate these ideas and come to these conclusions. And notice this, not come to these conclusions by himself, but come to these conclusions because this is what God has told us as people is truly important. And so here, this wise preacher, he's going to point us in a direction. And as we go through this class, we're going to see that direction. So what does he say? Verse 2. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, starting in verse 2. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. But wait, all is vanity? Your business, your homes, cars, your hobbies, all of that's vanity? What about my ambitions? What about, my education? What about is all that vanity? In relationship to what's more important, yes, it is. Obviously, we look at things, we look at houses and cars, and those are the kind of the things we like to talk about. And yes, we understand those are vanity. But we even look at certain things like, okay, I'm a father, you're a mother. In comparison to what I'm supposed to be that's even greater than that, it's a vain pursuit. Why? Why do I say that? Well, some people can't be fathers. Some people can't be mothers, and they desperately want to. But you know what? If that is your only purpose in life, and that's the only pursuit that you ever go down, and you forget about what's more important, that even that pursuit that seems so loving and seems so great and so just essential to our life, even that pursuit becomes something that is not really needed ultimately to be pleasing to the one that really matters. And yet that's really hard to say, but yet when it comes down to it, I want to be a good father, and I hope I am. I want to be a good husband, and I hope I am. But I promise you that I've seen people get lost in the pursuit of just those things. Because you can be great at something in the world standards, but be terrible at the same time to the standards of God. Because even the world would say, hey, what's a great father? Well, that leads to a lot of discussions. A great dad is somebody that allows his kids to express themselves in any way they possibly want to. A great dad is someone that doesn't ever discipline their children, that just gives them positive encouragement. Well, my dad gave me positive reinforcement. It just was with a belt. I mean, it was positive. He positively hit me every single time. But it was one of those things that you talk about, oh, you're pursuing this, you're great, you're fantastic. You're not a Christian. You're not a child of God. You're still missing out. And that's something good in the world. I want good dads and I want good moms. Vanity of vanities, he says to preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. But I have plans today. It's almost Thanksgiving. We got to get the turkey. We got to get Christmas gifts. You know, and there to be a lot of them. I pick on my family because there's too many gifts every year. And I'm like, listen, we can cut this down a little bit. But, you know, all is vanity. What's more important? That our children and our families know that we love them because we gave them a turkey, or because we gave them tons of Christmas gifts, or do they know that we love God and we serve him with our entire heart? Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? But isn't hard work important? What do y'all say? Is hard work important?
Yes, sir.
Hard work's important. Do more people in our world need to learn how to work?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, I think we would all agree with that. More people in our world need to learn how to work. There's too many handouts. There's too many this, that, the other. And that's not trying to knock on benevolence. Benevolence is a wonderful thing. But there's too many people that's all they want to do is stick their hand out or stick it in your pocket. But the reality is what profit has a man from all his life? We teach children from an early age to work. At least the people I know and generally associate with, they teach them to work. They teach them to put an effort to strive for something, to long for, and that hard work deserves a fair wage, and all these things. We teach them to work, and even honestly, even if someone's not fair, you still give them your best effort. You still show respect. You still work. That's what the people that I know teach. That's what the Bible teaches about work. But it says, what profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? Now, we all know that he's asking a question right now, but it's really setting us up. Because you might say, oh, there's tons of profit to it. And there is. There's profit on a material level. In a material world, there's profit. And if there's not profit, you're in the wrong business. Okay? I mean, I know you can technically work for a not-for-profit organization. I get that. But if you don't have a paycheck at the end of the day, and you don't pay bills or put food on the table, you know, you're not going to materially profit. But on the same side, can you profit without having money? Well, you can. You can in fact, my dad loaned me out one summer to work with a contractor. He loaned me out to work for a contractor for free. I had to help build, in addition to a gymnasium. I was carrying rebar, and we're laying the footings, and I was burning my hands off because I was picking up 115-degree rebar that was laying out in the hot sun. I should have been smart enough to wear gloves, but I wasn't. And so he loaned me out for free. Was there profit in that? Absolutely. Could I go and do it again? Don't ask me to do that again. I don't know how. But there was profit in there. Even if it was just the hard physical labor that I did that day, there was profit in there, and there was absolutely zero amount of money that took place. So what profit is a man from all his labor which is under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. But isn't that what we're working for? Isn't that what we say? We're working so that the next generation, our children, don't have to as much, or that we're able to leave them something. We think about legacy, leaving them a legacy, and we don't think about legacy. We're thinking about how much money can I leave them. At least that's the approach of some people. Some of the richest people in the world, you know what they're leaving their kids? Absolutely zero. Why? Because they want them to go out and work for it. It's a great technique to teach them about work. Okay? Some of the richest people in the world leave this much to their children financially, but teach them everything about hard work. But let me tell you this, if they don't have God, they're not teaching them the right things. They're not teaching them what they truly need.
Derek,
Yes.
that verse 4, one generation passes away and another generation comes. Do Do we all in here understand how quickly that passes from one to the other?
Probably not, Mr. Ron. We probably don't understand it, but we should.
I mean, you know, I can think about only my great grandmother
Mhm.
and father, but I don't know anything about the ones before that, you know, and it just seemed like, me and Wayne at our age, I don't think anybody else comes close to our age in here, but, we can just see how quickly something like that, our generations, the people that we knew and associated with and who we grew up with and everything is gone,
It is.
you know.
And you think about that, and on one hand, it's sad because you have a generation rises up, and you know we give our generations names. You know, we say, okay, this is the greatest generation, or these are the boomers, or these are the the Gen X, or this is the millennials, or this is Gen Z, or this is I don't even know what it's a Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is the babies right now. And so they've started over again. So I mean, we give them names, we give them classifications, we put everybody in these boxes and say this is who you and what you are. But guess what? The things that were done during the greatest generations, and then your boomers, and then all these groups coming down, and they made great strides in certain things. But guess what? The next generation comes along, they discover a little bit more. They discover a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and at the end of the day, how many generations does it take for everybody to forget what you did? How many generations does it take for everybody to not benefit from the financial wealth that you had? How many generations does it forget for them to, to say, now, where did I come from, and who are my people, and and it doesn't take very long. My sister went on that little website, that family tree thing, whatever, and went on there and she searched it back for. It took her days, months, years to find all that information. And she's a history major, has a master's degree, and she searched and searched and searched. It took a lot of searching. Why? Because people forget, and people don't remember. And on one hand, that's depressing. But let's think about this a different way. There was a couple of young college guys that they wrote some Bible curriculum, put them into film strips, and that's what we get as the Joel Miller film strips. The Joel Miller film strips were put into a yard sale, and that's where my mother and grandmother found them. And they had an elder of the Lord's church to come teach them the gospel. Then she met my father, who was also a preacher, and his daddy was converted by a radio evangelist. What happens if every generation from here on out in our family tree, the one thing we are able to pass down is faith? The one thing we're able to pass down is a relationship with God, a proper relationship with God. What if that's what we're able to pass down? There's not a thing under this sun, there's not a thing in this material world that can take that away. Because it doesn't wither, it doesn't die, if your soul is right with God, there is nothing material, there's not even the devil himself that can take that from you unless you let him. And that's what makes it so much more important and so much more valuable than anything else under the sun. And notice that under the sun is going to be a continual phrase they're going to use within this thing. It says one generation passes away, another one comes, but the earth abides forever. So it said, here the earth, it's here. Even the earth has more importance to the overall span of things than just one physical life. But it doesn't have more importance than one spiritual soul. And when you look at this and you start seeing this, you start seeing, okay, that I need to put my trust and my faith and the importance on something that's far greater than this material. It says the sun also rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and turns toward the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. Why? Because the entire system is set up in its place, and it's moving and it's turning and it's moving and it's turning, and days go by. People told us when our children were born, Derek, you better just enjoy it now because it's gonna go away. And then my daughter turned 10 on this past Friday. Yeah, it's going away. I remember when I first got to hold her, and she's already 10 years old. Okay? Deborah ain't trying to make you cry, but you got a daughter that's getting ready to get married. Okay? Okay? It happens, right? It happens to every single one of us. Things continue to progress until we die. This earth continues to spin, and the things that are in place. You think about, rain. Rain's going to fall, and then what's it going to do? Eventually, it's going to evaporate and go back up in the clouds. It's going to filter back down, and it's going to fall again. Now, I wish it would fall for the next month because we need it. We need a good soaking rain. We had a little bit of rain. We need more. All right? But we see that there's a cycle that happens in life, and sometimes we get in those cycles, right? So we don't call them cycles. We call them ruts. We say, here I am. I'm stuck in this rut, and I can't seem to get it. Keeps happening, and it keeps happening, and it keeps happening. Why? Why does it keep happening? Now, if your house keeps getting hit by a tornado, I'm telling you, move. All right? If that keeps happening, move. But if the rut that you're talking about, that you keep getting stuck in, is to do with you and your relationship to God, then the why needs to be directed right back at yourself. And saying, why is this happening? Because I'm not doing what God has told me to do. That's the why. If the rut of your life is that you're stuck because you have not pursued what he has told us to, then the what is my purpose, the whys, the what kind of questions, those kind of questions can be answered, and they can be answered oh so easily. But it's a lot harder on day to day when we get out there and make those conscious decisions, because the material, what's here in the flesh and blood and what we see and what we know and what we can touch and all the senses that are, those things, they're easy to get sucked into. We have to focus on what's truly important and understand that this physical life is turning, it's moving, it'll one day pass away, but our souls have an opportunity to live on forever. It says, and the rivers runs to the sea is not full. Have you ever figured that? Take the Mississippi River, for instance. Mississippi River just keeps dumping water and water and water. Where does it run to? It runs to the Gulf, right? So it's running in the Gulf. Has the Gulf ever filled up? No, it doesn't fill up. Why is that happening? How is that possible? If I took a glass right now and I started pouring water, eventually it would fill up, right? That's what would happen. But guess what? The whole beauty of God's creation, it just keeps cycling and cycling and cycling. But it's pointing us towards something that will never end. It's getting us ready for something that's going to be eternal and everlasting. And yet this cycle is a pattern of our life, but it shows us what's more important, because there is not a man-made system that works that smoothly. I know family members, and they're essentially machinists, okay? And they get out there and they make these machines and they work on them and they do all these things. Guess what? Even those machines, and as precise as they can be, they still mess up. But God's system doesn't mess up. It says, all things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. I've heard a lot in my life. But I'm not as old as some of you. You've heard more. And yet your mind has not yet filled yet. Even though at times our stress level feels like, okay, I can't take anymore. I was in the car yesterday with my children, and they were yapping a little too much. And I was like, okay, I'm filled, that's it. But yet I wasn't full. Because there's still something that was far more important. That which has been is what it will be. That which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. I hate hearing that, because I like new things, and I like technology, and I love the new things, and I like something different and new. I love new, but here's the reality. The reality is you have spiritual and you have material. It's not new just because it's different. It's just different, but it's not really new. It's still information. It's still words. It's still sources. It's still all these things, but it's not really new. It's just a different strategy. It's changed a little bit, but it's not really new. It says, is there anything which may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be remembrance of the things that are to come by those who will come after. And that deals with the material world. there's nothing new. There's nothing different. There's nothing that's going to be just life-changing. There's somebody that one day somebody's probably going to cure cancer. And that's going to be a wonderful, wonderful thing. But those cancer patients, they need something more than just that cure. They need God. Because even if somebody cures cancer and they're lifted up to be this greatest physician or scientist ever that has lived, and they don't have God, then they don't have what they need. The preacher says, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. I hope you'll continue to join us for this class. I think it's going to be helpful. I know it's going to be helpful for me. Hope it's going to be helpful for you. We did get to where we wanted to today in the first 11 verses, and we will pick up there next week. Thank you.